I'm gon' ride, we gon' ride, who gon' slide, we gon' slide, they my guys, they my slimes.
Clip up the ride out.
I'm gon' ride, we gon' ride, who gon' slide, we gon' slide, they my guys, they my slimes.
All out when we ride out.
The next topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros is the WBA. The WBA plans to reduce the number of belts, and G's going to fill us in.
All right. Now, this is according to Michael Benson, and it says WBA President Gilberto Mendoza has once again claimed they are planning to reduce their number of belts. Quote, "It is something that the public has asked for, even if I am not 100% in agreement. I feel that with more titles, we give the fighters more opportunities." And
That's
so
ESPN Deportes.
yeah, you know, I don't speak Spanish, so unfortunately I didn't share that article. So
All right, so G, man, what's your thoughts on the WBA saying that they're planning on reducing the number of belts?
all right, so I had to look this up, right, to see how many belts the WBA actually has, right? And so they have the Super Champion, right? Now the Super Champion could be interchangeable with Undisputed or Unified Champ. So as long as you have at least two of the major belts, you could be Super Champ. Then they have regular or World Champion, right? That's two. Then they have Champion in Recess, right? For like a Manny Pacquiao or somebody that's inactive. Then they have Gold Champion. I don't even know what a Gold Champion is, to keep it 100. And then finally they have an Interim Champion. That's 5 belts, you know what I mean, for like any division from one governing body. That's outrageous. So I agree with boxing fans. You need to reduce these belts, man. This is too much, you know. And I agree with Floyd. Floyd talked about this a while ago. You know, get rid of these super belts, get rid of these franchise belts. It's confusing to the boxing world. It's just too much. So the WBA, you know, they cause a lot of confusion because I know they created the super belt for Undisputed because they actually created it on behalf of Lennox Lewis, right? But Lennox Lewis was undisputed, right? So now we got WBA Super, where it's just 2 belts, right? So to me, and this is why I had a problem with Pacquiao being the Super Champion, right? Keith Thurman was actually the Super Champ, right? Because he held 2 belts at the time. So that's why they promoted him to Super. But, you know, when he fought Pacquiao, it was only for 1 belt, right? So when Pacquiao got the WBA, why should Pacquiao now inherit the Super title, right? It doesn't make sense because he doesn't have more than 1 belt. You only have 1 belt, so you're not a Super. You're just the regular world champion, you know? And so the WBA needs to clean up their rules, right? Their regulations on these belts and the amount of belts, right? So like, for example, same thing with WBC. What does it actually mean to be undisputed franchise, right? Can it be transferable to other people, right? Originally, it wasn't. Now it is, right? So that's an issue. And the super thing is an issue as well. So I feel like it's not just WBA. I feel like all 4 major governing bodies should actually crack down on the amount of belts that they have. These double, these diamonds, these platinums, all these belts, man, gotta go.
Dollar bill.
It's why my son stopped playing Pop Warner football. He's like, why is he going so hard and everybody going to get a trophy at the end anyway?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? This is one of those 5th place ribbon things. Like, you know, they give everybody a belt. You know what they're doing? They were just lining their pockets with all these belts. They're giving that's what they was doing. Like, this is so they can get sanctioning fees. That's how I feel. These guys was being greedy. I always felt 1 face, 1 belt, 1 name for that division. That's how it should be. There should be only 1 I don't care if it's what you want to call him. He should just be 1 champion. It should be 1 WBA champion, 1 WBC champion, 1 WBO champion, 1 IBF. So we can just make that less. And then you have a number 1 contender, the second kid. You can do something like that. Give him a little chain like the WBC do. You know what I'm saying? A little necklace.
Give him a little ribbon.
Say that you was, you know, you're a number 1 contender, you're the next one. But giving everybody a belt, it's confusing. You know what I'm saying? Rolly got a belt at 135. You know what I'm saying?
So the only belt that matters is Rolly's belt.
You know what I'm saying? And he's champ.
True. Remember Michael Hunter's fight on Tuesday? My man was flaunting the belt. He was on stage during the verses. I'm like, what belt is that? Like, fam, what belt you got? You know what I'm saying? So everybody's getting belts out here.
Everybody's got, yo, I'm trying to say these sanctioning bodies is Oprah with the belt. You get a belt. You get a belt. You ain't fighting 2 years? Well, you can hold this belt. You know what I mean?
You're forgetting one thing. You're forgetting one thing. Oh, we'll make a belt for that.
We don't get one for you. We'll make one for you. This is getting crazy, man. They just trying to get money with these sanctioning fees, but hopefully that we've been saying this for the longest. And if y'all guys don't do it, we're gonna do it. One face, one name, and we're gonna give y'all the real belt that matters. The BBB belt. That's the Boxing Bros belt. You know what I'm saying? That's for one champion, one face, one name for every division.
We're going to do that. We're going to make a belt for every division. And
for real. One fighter. It got to be one champion in every division. Stop with the craziness and the being greedy. That's how I feel.
Yeah. You know, there are definitely too many belts. And I also feel like not only are there too many belts, but these organizations are the reason why we're not seeing the fights we want to see, because there are too many belts and they make it difficult for it to be undisputed. For example, you look at the WBO, they had to grant Anthony Joshua, an exception to allow him to fight Tyson Fury in Saudi Arabia. If it was actually going to happen, the WBO could have forced him into a mandatory, but they had to look into getting step aside or whatever. And it's really bothering me because what the sport needs is more undisputed champions. The sport needs more the best fighting the best. However, I do understand the dilemma because you have an undisputed champion, right? And other people, how do they get their shot? How do they get their shot? Well, my thing is you should want to encourage an undisputed champion, and should said undisputed champion lose the belt, then you should kick in with the mandatory. So I'll give you an example. Anthony Joshua had to fight Vladimir Klitschko. He had to fight Joseph Parker to collect titles. Now, if one man has unified twice, right, he should get the benefit of the doubt from the sanctioning bodies to where they say, okay, we're going to agree on who's the mandatory for you. We're going to agree. We're going to allow you to become undisputed. Now, let's say hypothetically, Anthony Joshua beats Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder, then he becomes undisputed. He should get the benefit of the doubt for a reign to just be the number one guy. And all the sanctioning bodies should get together and agree who he needs to fight for the mandatory. That's what they should do to allow him to be undisputed, because that's going to make boxing big. That's going to be like everyone wants to see if someone can knock off undisputed, right? You got one champ with 4 belts and you want to see who can knock them off. Well, let's say, okay, hypothetically, at some point in AJ's career, he loses to Jared Big Baby Anderson, right? And then Jared Big Baby Anderson becomes undisputed. Well, Jared Big Baby Anderson inherited those belts off one fight of beating Anthony Joshua. Didn't have to collect the belts the way AJ did. So now I'm okay with you doing the mandatory thing and breaking the belts up again, because he didn't do the work of inheriting the belts. And he got the title of undisputed already. But when someone works hard to collect the belts, you should allow them to enjoy it. They should, be able to reap the fruits. Like, yo, I unified all these titles, and you're taking them away from me. You're pulling them away from me. I think there's something wrong. I think you need to grant exceptions for that. That's only for someone who actually did the work of unifying, because that means they took on champion after champion after champion. Someone who knocks off an undisputed, then I think you go back to your regular system. So that's one thing I would like to see. Another thing I would like to see is you should have one WBA champion and you should have an interim champion, right? And the interim champion should be determined by tournament. And this is how you make your money, WBA.
Exactly.
Instead of robbing everyone for sanctioning fees, people should have to pay to enter the tournament to become mandatory. So let's say you have an eight guy tournament, WBA, right? We'll just use heavyweight because it's the glamour division. It's a heavyweight tournament. 8 fighters can pay your sanctioning fee to enter the tournament. The winner of that tournament then becomes the WBA mandatory and will fight the WBA champion. So what you're doing is you're actually generating intrigue for your belt. You're generating excitement and you're making money, and whomever becomes the interim champion would actually earn it. So that's what we want. We don't want to see like Trevor Bryant become some champion who's going to get, and we don't even know who he is or whatever his name is. If I said his name right, we don't want to see him, the guy that's next in line. So reducing the belts is one thing, but there's a lot that needs to be fixed because at the moment, the way these sanctioning bodies are set up, they are preventing undisputed champions of what push forward our sport. So that's a big problem. Go ahead, G.
Question. So, because they have the regular champ and they have the super champ. If the regular champ unifies and becomes, a unified champion, and they promote them to super, do you feel like they should allow someone else to become the regular champion, or there'll just be no regular champion? That regular champion is the super champion.
What is the super? I don't know. For me, I don't get the
super. Just the person has more than one.
I know. Yo, shout out to you, G, for doing your due diligence and finding out all the belts and all that with the WBA. That's great and a lesson right there. Get rid of these belts. It should be one belt. You know what I'm saying? It should be one belt, and I think that it will bring excitement, just like what Kaden was saying. Yeah. Like, say if you see this guy's in fighting this guy, these guys are going to be the next in line. You're going to want to see who's going to be the next guy, who's going to be the one that's going to fight the champ. I think that's going to bring excitement and bring it back to how it was back in the days, where as an up and coming fighter, people was watching him like, I can't wait to see what he do against the champ, and then he finally gets his chance, and then the pressure's on the champ to fight. One belt, one name.
No, I agree. And this super champ thing is a joke. This franchise champ thing is a joke. Stop it, man. Yo, earn your spot. Nobody should get a free pass. Like that's some of the worst things. Like there's nothing worse than a teacher that's in a union and can't be fired, but everyone knows the teacher's terrible. Yeah. Right? Like, come on, man. You should have to earn your spot. You should have to prove it. At the end of the day, man, you shouldn't be like, oh, well, you're a franchise tag, so it doesn't matter. Nah, man, you should have to keep proving it. There's just a champion. There's no super champion, no franchise champion. Let's get rid of it. Look at the situation that's happened with Devin right now, right? You got debates. Although I don't necessarily feel like Vasily Lomachenko ducked him, I do feel like you created a situation where he could avoid him. So like you don't need that. What we need is the actual fights to take place. So that way there's no debate. The problem is we're still debating. We have to debate who's the WBC champion, and we shouldn't have to do that.
Right. We're disputing an undisputed champion.
Exactly. We're disputing an undisputed champion. That's a great point. Like, come on.
Nah, I totally agree with you, gentlemen, man. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to do away with all the other belts, and it's just going to only be the Triple B belt. And that's the Boxing Bros belt coming soon. Please like and subscribe. Let us know how you feel in the comments section. And check us out on Instagram and Twitter. And please check out our podcast on all major streaming services. We the Boxing Bros. Triple B's coming.
You're welcome. You're all